Hello and welcome back. So nice to see you again. The guitar is basically done now. And yesterday I put a bunch of layers of shellac over it. And I don't really like the whole shiny thing. I think it looked better when the picker was shiny and the body was matte. But obviously I need to protect the wood with something. So I had to put something on it. But that's okay. We are going to now use some steel wool and just scuff up the body. Just going back and forth like this. And it's going to take the sheen off and it's going to look awesome. I don't know if you can see that, but there is a difference to it. We're going to do that over the entire body and then also over the entire neck. I was going to do that over the neck either way because, you know, the neck feels a lot faster and smoother and nicer if it's matte. So we're going to do that to it anyway. And then we're going to finish off the frets, and after that I'm thinking of maybe putting back lacquer on the leaves to make them glossy, to have this weird small detail. I don't know if you can see that there is a color difference. I painted the leaves. I also painted the leaves on the neck. It's a little bit easier to see them being painted in, or at least I think so. Yeah, so I think maybe, just maybe I'll do that. I won't do that on the neck, obviously, because I want the neck to feel smooth. And we'll see where we go from there. And I'm just going to go back and forth like this. And I'm not going to do the pick guard. I'm going to try to go around the pick guard and leave that as is. And just, we'll see what happens. You can see that it's super fast thing to do. It doesn't. I'm not putting a lot of force in at all. Just moving my hand back and forth, basically. And you can already see that it's become a lot matter than it was. Well, it was high gloss before, so I mean, yeah. And now I'm going to show you a super awesome trick for doing this even faster. That's going to blow your mind. And that is, stop talking, just start doing it, and speed up the video. Because if you speed up the video, it goes faster. So yeah, that's a cool trick for you. So, now I've scuffed up the entire body and it looks really nice. It doesn't have the same amount of sheen to it, it does still have some. And that's pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with it. I think I'm gonna save the idea of putting gloss back on the leaves to another date, because it doesn't seem like something that makes a lot of sense. It's not gonna look like as big effect as I thought it was going to, just because it's not perfectly finished guitar. If I had done a mirror finish, it would have been a really interesting thing to go back and make the leaves mirror. But anyway, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some hard wax on it and just buff it up a tiny bit. It's more of a protective thing than a cosmetic thing, but so it's not going to look a lot different. And I'm just going to take some tissue paper and just smear it on, and then hand buff it out. Just go over the surface with your hand. So see you once I've done that. So I think it's about time we take care of the electronics. So electronics can be super difficult. You can, or maybe not difficult is the right word, but you can do some really crazy stuff where you try to add a bunch of weird switches and stuff and coil splitting and, you know, all that jazz. I have a P90 pickup and that's all I have in this guitar. So we're gonna do just a volume pot and a tone pot and not something overly crazy. We're going to do a tiny bit of an experiment later on, but to get something crazy out of this. But it's the basics is not that hard. You have to tin the wires, which is basically just you put solder on them before you connect them to something, and you have to tin the parts. It's, if you think wiring is hard, it's not. You just have to believe in yourself. You can do it. Anyone can. The first thing you have to think about is making sure things are connected. The volume pot is basically just a resistor that you can decide the value of, and you connect the volume of the pickup to one part of it, and then the other that goes to the jack to the next lug. I don't know if I'm explaining this in a very simple way, but basically, even though it maybe doesn't sound very easy, it is. It's basically just a question of connecting things easily. So I'm going to connect pickup to this lug and the output jack to this one. That means that when I pull on the knob, it will slowly move its way to that one. And then I'm going to connect the last one to ground, because everything needs to be grounded. So let's do that first, maybe. Let's start off with grounding everything. That's a good way to start, I think. So I'm going to pull this up a bit, like that, and move it over to itself. I wish I had a camera on my head, so you could see what I see. But basically, I hope you can see that I've pulled one of the legs up to the body. Now I'm just going to connect it with some solder, and that is just to make the ground connection work. You could also just put a wire in between. So yeah, something like that. The next part is the ground wire from the jack. So we start off by tinning in the wire and then holding it to the body. And you can ground anything anywhere, because the only thing that really matters is that everything is grounded. Like that. And later on I'm gonna put in the wire from the bridge, but that's super easy. You just when the bridge is in place, you just drill a hole through so that there goes a wire from the bridge to the ground. And it's just a question of making everything like flow in a natural way. So now I'm just going to hold the ground wire from the pickup, and I'm using it as the ground wire for both the pots. So I'm holding it in place for I'm holding it in place and I'm just attaching it, basically. And it might look like this is more difficult than it is, but I promise you it's not. You're gonna do fine. This is one of those things that when I say that anyone can do it, I really mean that anyone can. It is a bit fiddly, but you can do it. I believe in you, even if no one else does. I'm just kidding. I mean, not kidding about believing in you, because that I do. But everyone believes in you. Even your estranged father who never visits. And I'm just gonna cut this to length. And first you have to like expose some of the wire from the shielding, which is a lot difficulter than difficulter. What the hell am I saying? It's not easy. I mean, it is easy. Everything is easy. You can do it. I promise. For some stupid reason, I am struggling with it, but I don't know why. And then just cut off the excess. It's so hard to like try to film things and not be in the way at the same time. I mean, like, why would anyone want to see my hands? And then just put this in the place where the first lug is. See if I can. My hands are in the way, but I hope you. Oh, okay. I hope you know what I mean. Put it through. Like that, it's connected. And then I can just put some tin on the next. And put the wire through. And now that's connected. So let's go over it again. 2 wires from the pickup, ground wire that is connected to the pot, that is also connected to the other pot. So they're all connected now. Ground wire from the jack is connected to the pot, connected to all the other parts, so everything is connected. And then outer leg from the pickup to the middle leg of the pot, connected to the jack, so everything is connected. Okay, so the next step is that where the pickup is connected, we also need a wire for the current to flow through. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna tin a piece of wire in one end. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. I'm not even in the shot. Just tinning a piece of wire. If you guys want me to make a proper video on this, let me know and I can maybe make an entire video about this and try to explain everything really thorough. Because this, I think maybe because I'm building the guitar as I'm like trying to explain these things, I think maybe I'm overdoing things in my brain. So maybe I could, but I have to get things done, so I can't I don't have time to explain every little detail. But basically, you have to just think of a way to make things flow. So I put the wire in the middle lug of what is to be the tone pot. And I basically, since both parts are tinned, they melt together pretty easily. And then I can just add a tiny bit of solder to make the seam disappear. Something like that. And then I take the other end and I basically just pull it. It's so hard to make this visible so that you guys can see what I'm doing, but I'm touching it to the same control, or at least I'm trying to connect it from the middle here, I hope you can see, to pickup volume selector, so that the tone basically goes through both, so that when you want to add in the tone pot, which I know some people say they never use the tone pot, I always do, but when you do want to use it, you can, because it's in the circuit. Now, a pot, the tone pot and the volume pot is basically the same thing. There's nothing different. The only thing is that the tone pot, by turning it, you are adjusting the volume, because you're adjusting how much you're letting flow out from the pickup through the pot and then out through the jack. But the tone pot is different, because you're basically doing the same thing, except it's a question of how much you let go through one of these little transistors. I'm sorry, I'm loosening my language as I'm trying to talk. So what you have to do is basically the same thing. You have to put this one in one of the legs and put it through, and then put some extra solder just to make so sure it doesn't move on you, and then put the pot down, and then just add the other one to ground, basically. And you can experiment with different values of different capacitors, and you can try to find out like what works for you, if you're one of those people who actually uses it. A lot of people seem to not be using their tone pot, which I think is a shame, of course, because it's a feature of on your guitar that is actually really good, like that. So now basically everything should be good, because we have everything is grounded and we have a connection from everything to everything, if that makes any sense. The jack and the pickup, the tone and the volume pot is all in place, and that's super easy and simple. And I think that if you're going to build your first guitar or something like that, like maybe start out with building, I don't know, something sort of simple, like a guitar that is a flat top guitar and only has like maybe one pickup and a tone and a volume. Adding in a switch is not hard at all, but you know, start off with the basics and and go from there. Now I'm gonna just troubleshoot this, which is that I'm just gonna plug it up to a amp, and I'm gonna tap on the pickup a little bit and see if any sound comes out, because there can be something wrong with something. I don't think there is going to be, because I've done this so many times that I think I would be able to see if there's something wrong with it, but there could be like something, so always best to troubleshoot it. It's better to do it now than later when the strings are on and then figure out that something is wrong. So see you in a bit. Okay, so now the wiring is done, And now we're going to do that little weird thing that I said that we were going to do. I don't know if this is such a weird thing, but this is something that I just picked up earlier this week, and I think I'm going to be trying this out and experimenting more with this. And it's basically just a thing from the wiring of the Silver Sky. So they have a tiny little resistor like this on the volume pot. Now on the Silver Sky the wiring is different. It's a Strat and things like that, so I'm not trying to copy that exactly. So they use a different value than what I'm going to use. They use a 2.7 million and I'm going to use a 1.5. And basically what they do with it is that they put a bit of solder on one of the ends first, and then they put it to ground. And I hope you can see that I'm doing so. I'm gonna move my hand so you can see. Put it in ground like that. I'm just gonna add a bit of solder to hopefully make this easier. Oops. See if I can. I hope you can see that. It's actually kind of difficult to show, which I probably have said a million times already. Like that. Actually, no. We're gonna cut this leg shorter first. So I'm gonna just remove it, and we're gonna cut some of that leg off because it doesn't need to be that long. The thing, if legs on things are too long, then you know it's very easy for them to move around and touch something else. But like that. So one of the tips is going to ground. I hope you can see it. It's right there. It's basically, there's the resistor and here's the ground connection, and it's attached there. And then we just move it apart. We bend it over and we attach it to where the pickups go into the volume. And now we have to cut a bit of leg off here too, and see if we can maybe just start off by putting some tin, because that will make everything float a little bit better. Just solder things together and then just hold it in place and let the solder float so that it floats into each other. And of course another cable came loose. That's okay, we can just reattach it. And if you've watched my latest video where I am remaking a old Stratocaster Squire, then I do this mod there and I go a little bit deeper into it there. But basically all you have to do is solder it to these two connections, and you can experiment with different values and see if you can find something unique to your guitar basically. And I'm gonna do an experiment with a Strat where I plug in two cables like this and then connect different resistors, and we can see if the value changes the sound of the pickup a lot. That's an experiment I've been thinking of for a while now, because it will be very interesting to know how big of a difference something can actually do, and just see what happens. But now that's done, and we can basically just take our control plate and put it over and screw it down. And if you can see those little wonky things there, don't forget that we're zoomed in quite a lot, and also we need a place where we can get in with our nails so we can actually lift it up if we ever need to, which we, might if we ever realize that we need another resistor, for example. So we're going to do that. When I screw these down, I first just make sure they are in straight, and I screw them down a bit, and then once both are in place, and the plate lies the way I feel is the best for it, then I go in and I actually tighten them down. Okay, I'm back. And now all the hardware is installed. I didn't film that because it's like super easy to do and not very interesting to see. And the tuners are in place. If you think the headstock looks a bit wonky, yes it does, but that's because I didn't make a template and make a real design for how something should look, which is what you should do. I just took a Strat template and modified it while I was making it. And I have some strap locks buttons on it as well. Went with locking because, you know, you don't want to drop your guitar. I mean, some people do, but that's called relicking. That was a very bad joke, but I hope it made you laugh. Anyway, that's it. The guitar is basically done. I just need to polish the frets and put strings on it. And then, you know, intonation and those things. But I'll do that, and then we'll make a reveal video. So yeah, see you then. Bye bye!